An election about taxes. Every dime is supposed to count.
We are going to go out there vigorously to try to get those revenues.
But what if the country's leaders are behind on their taxes or aren't paying?
Why? Because people captured the premises.
Go to somebody who owes money, man. That's not money.
Jamaicans sound off on politicians being behind on their property taxes.
If they don't get their taxes up to date, police must come for them too.
And later, stepping up without being out of step.
We don't have any outside investors at the moment, and she's not seeking any.
The scaling up in size means scaling down in quality.
She wants to keep everything in-house so she can control the quality.
The dilemma facing one Jamaican sandals maker as it makes strides internationally. On this episode of 18 Degrees North.
"18 Degrees North" is brought to you by
All my dreams are coming true.
Walker's Wood sauces bring exciting, mouth-watering flavors to any meal. Fiery and spicy, bold and savory. Walker's Wood sauces bring back memories of traditional island cuisine. Walker's Wood sauces, authentic flavors of the Caribbean.
Hello, I'm Zara Burton and welcome to 18 Degrees North, reporting from Gordon House, the site where the Jamaican Parliament meets weekly. This week, we're looking at politicians and their taxes. During the run-up to the general election, February 25, 2016, one candidate from the governing People's National Party at the time, J.P. White, he had to step away or was made to step away from the race because of his company being behind on its taxes. We at 18 Degrees North got to thinking, who else was behind on their taxes in the run-up to the general election? What we found was a who's who in Jamaican politics listed as behind on their property taxes 2 weeks before the election, some of them even after. We're staying right here in Kingston at 18 Degrees North and 77 Degrees West.
Champion boy for the ear!
The People's National Party's Patrick Roberts ran for the West Central St Andrews seat against Jamaica's then opposition leader Andrew Honus in the country's recent general election. But the owner of the famed Shocking Vibe studio turned politician and one-time producer of famous acts like Beanie Man, Lady Saw and Sean Paul was listed on the tax administration's website in the 2 weeks before the election as owing for at least 7 years on 4 of his 5 properties, around $241,000 Jamaican dollars or about $2,000 US, all figures rounded. Roberts, a local councillor, at first said he didn't remember owning one of the pieces of land, then said his son was responsible for paying the taxes on his Shocking Vibe studio, but in the end he said there's no excuse. You have an obligation and that obligation must be met. I'll deal with that tomorrow, first thing. When we checked 3 months later in May, Roberts was still listed as owing. He was defeated by Honus, who became Prime Minister of Jamaica for a second time. Days after his inauguration, Honus erected a super ministry of economic growth to combat years of stagnation in Jamaica. One of his planned initiatives, he told us, was to collect billions of dollars in outstanding taxes. But key members of his economic team were listed as outstanding on their property taxes in the 2 weeks before the election: Minister of Industry Carl Samuda and Minister without portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Daryl Vaz. We spoke with both at the ceremonial opening of Parliament in April 2016.
All of my taxes are up to date because that is something that I make sure as a legislator, and that matter has been rectified. All of my taxes, property taxes and others, are up to date.
I'm surprised it's not covered because a check was sent, but I mean, I'll check it out. But that's peanuts. It's not even worth mentioning. Yeah, go to somebody who owes money, man. That's not money.
Okay, but what about the idea of property taxes being
I think you
owed?
should pay it. I think you should pay it, but I paid it. I pay property taxes every year. That's why. I mean, how can you ask me a question like that? I mean, really?
Yeah.
You know how many problems we have in this country? You're asking me a very minute tax figure on a year, last year's tax. That there's a matter of rushing up and down, you get around to it. That's a simple matter.
Days later, the TAJ's website showed the property VAS owned with others as paid, and Samuda's too as almost all paid, up to the 2015-16 tax year. Among candidates in the 2 weeks before the election, sitting members of Parliament at the time, the PNP's Paul Buchanan and Education Minister Ronald Thwaites, plus JLP candidates Michael Stern and Dr. Norman Dunn, were listed as owing for at least 5 years on more than one property. Stern said his company was on a payment plan with the tax authorities which he had started. Dunn said his was an oversight and paid part of his amounts. Buchanan said there were ownership issues. He would check into it and was happy for the reminder. Thwaites, the only one of this lot to win his seat and to have paid in full after we made contact with him and before the election, said we had it wrong.
There was no issue. You checked the wrong account.
No, I think that we had it
Let me encourage you. I spoke to the gentleman and told him, and he was kind enough to desist from what he was alleging.
Okay, and is it that, are you saying that the information that the tax authorities had at the time was wrong and incorrect?
No, I'm not saying anything like that. I'm just saying that there was no arrears.
There was no arrears.
That's right.
In Jamaica, the compliance rate on property taxes is low, around 50%, compared to at least 80% in more developed countries. There's about $13 billion or almost $110 million of arrears in property taxes as of the 2015-2016 tax year, meaning less money for streetlights and garbage pickup. Some people get so behind, just in February 2016, the tax administration had 2 persons arrested for owing property taxes and published their names. The Ministry of Local Government even put out this public service announcement to get people to pay. We caught up with the head of that ministry, Desmond McKenzie, at the opening of Parliament. He said he would be aggressive on compliance.
There is a substantial amount of revenues that is outstanding, especially to the local authorities, that we are going to go out there vigorously to try to get those revenues.
But then we were curious why he himself was listed as owing for at least 3 years in the 2 weeks before the election.
I'm not aware of that. As far as I know, my property tax payments are up to date, so I'm not aware of that. It's the first time I'm hearing that.
We checked with the tax authorities who told us McKenzie had paid up in March of 2016 after the elections and soon after being appointed minister. Already in a climate of belt tightening under the IMF program where every dime is supposed to count, civil society activist Carol Narcisse says everyone must pay, more so those running for office.
Any elected representative that makes policy and regulation that impact your and my life have an obligation to ensure that they are adhering to those regulations and laws. If you wish to be a member of the House of Representatives, you ought to be required to produce to the Electoral Commission proof of your tax compliance. Clearly, we are at that point.
In our research for just current members of Parliament, there were at least 11 listed as owing for 1 year in the 2 weeks before the election, at least 6 for 2 years, and at least 5 for 3 years or more. Some of the most prominent politicians were also listed as the most outstanding, like then Prime Minister and now opposition leader Portia Simpson Miller. As it turns out, the tax authorities list this address she and 2 others own and old constituency office as owing 14,000 Jamaican dollars, about $100 US, and being at least 7 years behind.
You know why? Because people captured the premises. They did not get my permission to move in. I just one day passed the place and I see clothing and everything hung up on the thing. So it was captured.
When you say it's captured though, it's not that much in terms of outstanding. It's only about, let us say, I think 13,000 J.
No, that is not anything for me to pay. Right. But I thought the constituency office, where we are now, were paying it. Okay. I didn't know they weren't paying at all.
So are you going to pay it or are you going to dispute it?
No, man, I'm not going to dispute it. The people who are living in there are poor people, so I will instruct my people to do something about it.
As of our last check, May 27, 2016, Simpson Miller was still listed as owing, along with at least 10 other members of Parliament, 3 months after Jamaica's general election. Everyone else that had been listed as owing over the same time period was subsequently listed as paid by May 27, 2016. Coming up on 18 Degrees North, Jamaicans sound off on politicians and their taxes.
If they don't get their taxes up to date, police must come for them too.
Them to pay up them taxes, so what we have to pay for why them not want to pay.
When we come back on 18 Degrees North.
The preceding segment was brought to you by
All my dreams are coming true. Heavy shackles used to hold me down. Now my feet don't even reach the ground. Just like a butterfly, I've got new wings. All my dreams are coming true.
Be good to your body now. How did we make This Is Really Great yogurt even better? We made it crazy creamy. This is really great. Taste the thick, creamy goodness of new and improved This Is Really Great yogurt. And with less calories and less sugar, your body will love you for it. But wait for it. Taste the crazy, creamy goodness of new This Is Really Great yogurt. Made in Jamaica, always delivered fresh.
Yes, ma'am. I will finance you. I think you're going to win the next election. I just need to know how I going to benefit.
See the Chris SUV there? I might get all of the government big contract them.
Them have to give him. I him support them big time.
Don't no left away. That for stop. Jamaica no for run, sir.
If the publicly show how much them give and stop the corruption.
For real.
End secret campaign financing now. Build integrity.
A message from the National Integrity Action Forum.
If you're looking for ways to achieve a positive cash flow, start your own business, finance your education, make a deposit on a home, or even get a new car.
But you have a general aversion to risk, don't have the minimum requirements to invest in stocks, don't understand stock investments, or you think there's too many requirements to open a trading account. Start a conversation with the Jamaica Stock Exchange.
You can also call the Jamaica Stock Exchange at 876-967-3271 for information on how to begin.